And when we talk about innovation in industry, for us, this has been an enormous industry toppling transition. And I know that applies to many of you in different circumstances, but it also offers everyone on this call and everyone in the world really an opportunity to explore opera digitally, which is not normally available to you. So the cost of presenting opera live is already quite high. In fact, someone this week said to me, the only thing more expensive than opera is war. So there's a lot of people that work on these. There's a lot of people who build our sets and who sing in our chorus, our soloists, the orchestras who play in our pit. But right now you can see a lot of that for free online, which never happens. So we wanted to present this program so anyone curious about opera or who doesn't think they're curious but has always kind of wondered can have a chance to know a little bit more. And if you want to go explore it online, this is a great time to do it, because the resources everybody has available for you are not normally there and will probably not be there after we're all locked in our houses. So a little bit about opera to begin with. I actually hear the words, I hate opera, with a lot of regularity. And they kind of make me laugh because people say it with this almost embarrassment, like they're telling me one of my kids is ugly. And the thing is, opera is not an art form that we grow up on in the United States in particular. And it's an art form that definitely has a kind of a link through other art forms model. So we know our audience loves the ballet and they love the orchestra, they love theater, they love all those things and come to opera because we take all of those art forms and put them together on our stage. So when you think about opera as a whole, it usually evokes images of Bugs Bunny in long braids and horns, or of a fat lady singing on stage in a gown, right, alone. Opera really isn't either of those things. First of all, every company in every country develops their own version of it. So we're not a production house. We don't rent a production with singers and everything and sets from New York, for example, and bring it to Milwaukee for a week. We build an opera here. So we take a score and a story that are written down by a composer and a librettist, and we re-envision them for Milwaukee. And we hire singers specifically for that show, and we build sets or rent them on occasion, but we often build at the Florentine. And we do the same with costumes. And we work with our artists to develop our interpretation of that story for this specific audience. So when you come to an opera, even if it's the very same opera that's being done in another town, it will not feel exactly the same as it did before. And one of the examples I've given of this is I sang 19 Donna Elviras in a row, and each of them was different. 17 of them were in one house, and every night feels like a different show in many ways. So opera from Italy, opera from Germany, opera written in one era or another, they have some characteristics that are similar, but they're all unique. So I sometimes compare opera to restaurants. I can't imagine anyone ever saying I hate restaurants, but you might hate Japanese food, or you might, or think you do, because you've tasted it once and didn't like it. You might not like American food if you're French, because all you think of is hot dogs and French fries. You might not like sushi, so you think, okay, I don't like anything that's going to come from there. Opera's a lot like that. So if you go eat sushi and then think you don't like restaurants, you're missing out on a lot. So when we present our art form, we really like to give people an opportunity to hear different things from different places and get a sense for those flavors. So this will be kind of a sampler platter that we walk you through. And think about it as looking at different book covers in the airport bookstore, or picking your favorite foreign film. Many operas are written and performed in foreign languages. So there's an adjustment window there. We use super titles, which have the English above the screen so that you can see what we're singing. And those help a lot for people who don't know the story, which is not an expectation on the way in. For our singers, that means they've spent a lot of time learning those languages and learning how to sing in them properly. And not just one, but many. So 2 of my singers on here are particularly good at specific languages, and I'd love for them to address that a little bit later in the program. But one of the other things we hear often is that whole, the only opera singer I can think of is the fat lady who sings. Singers are really athletes, believe it or not. What we train our bodies to do, and what the singers you're going to hear today train their bodies to do, takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of muscle work. And we make those very loud sounds from the stage and don't use mics. So when you hear an opera singer, you're actually hearing just their natural voice. And they've worked for many years, often decades, to train their instruments to project that sound outward. So when you think about how loud you can be when you're yelling at your loudest, and you realize that an opera singer has multiple degrees in universities and conservatories, so that they have physically trained their body to send their sound from a point on stage into at the Marcus Center, for example, 2,200 seat hall without a mic. It's a lot of air, it's a lot of force, and it's a lot of training. So all of that to say, I want to make sure that on top of talking to you about opera, we give you some. I want to introduce our first piece, and this is one some of you may have heard before. Opera is stories. We sing stories and create them for you and act them for you. This one is a very well-known tune, O mio babbino caro, and it's a woman who's fallen in love, who's asking her father to please let her marry the man of her dreams. This is Katie Henry, one of our Baumgartner studio artists.
O mio babbino caro, mi piace bello, bello, quando riporta rosa a comperar la bella. Sì, sì, ci voglio andare, e se l'ama se torna, andrò sul ponte vecchio, ma per buttarmi in aria mi salgo e mi converto. Vorrei morir. Babbo, pietà, pietà. Babbo, pietà,
So I hope you noticed that in addition to Katie Henry, who's a soprano, she's on the call with us today, there's also a pianist playing. So in addition to always working as part of a very big team, one of our joking theme songs at the Florentine is that opera is all about more is more. Not less is more is more. Jana Ernst is our principal pianist and coach. She's a wonderful addition to the Florentine team this season. And we perform with instrumentation or piano or some kind of accompaniment. I can't speak for the other singers on the call, and I'm kind of a recovering soprano, I like to say, but singing unaccompanied is really a challenge because you're used to your voice being part of a big texture and part of an ensemble at all times. So Katie, if you want to jump in here, I would love for you to talk about how your body is your instrument a little bit and let people know where you're from and what you've got coming up next.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie, or Catherine Henry. I'm initially from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, so not that far from Milwaukee. And I actually went to school in Milwaukee for my undergrad degree, so I'm very familiar with the area, and I'm very happy to be back in the city. As Maggie said, our bodies are our instrument, and so we have to take care of our body at all times. Unfortunately, right now, I somehow came down with strep throat, so that's why you saw a video of me instead of singing live for you, because my body is my instrument, and my vocal folds are very irritated right now, and so it's hard to actually give a live performance of any sort, even through digital. And so for us, being sick is like a big no-no. It's very hard when we're sick to sing. And so we take care of ourselves by doing physical activity all the time. Something I like to do is do a lot of cardio or weightlifting. I do yoga to like get my mind settled in meditation. But every single aspect of our body is our instrument. And so we have to take care of everything all the time.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
Okay, so I also want to introduce you to Samuel James DeWeese, who's an incredible Baumgartner Studio artist of ours, singing another really well-known aria from The Count. This is from an opera called The Marriage of Figaro. We did it this fall, and it's a lot of fun because it feels like a frothy, again, if you think of books or movies, it feels like a frothy, funny story with some capers, but at the base of it, there's a really emotional story about marriage and what it's like to maintain a relationship for a long time. And the Countess, another character in this show, is a role that as a university student, I would see and think, what a silly woman. You know, she's so sad about this man who's just really awful, and why does she even care what he thinks? And you know, the older you get and the more life experience you have, you realize how heart-wrenching it is to be married and still in love with somebody, even when you see their shortcomings. So I will let Sam sing a bit of the Count aria for you. He's actually going to sing live since he's not sick. And I hope you enjoy his voice. Sam is a baritone, which is a lower male voice, and he's wonderful at this aria. So that's the Count's aria from Sam.
Vedo mentr'io sospiro, felice un servo mio. Di un ben che in van desio ei posseder dovrà, vedrò per man d'amore un tan vile oggetto che in me desò un affetto che per me poi non ha, che per me poi non ha. Vedrò mentr'io sospiro, felice in servo mio, vedrò che un ben che ho desio ei posseder dovrà. Vedrò per man d'amore unito un vile oggetto che me destò un affetto che per me poi non ha, che per me poi non ha. Vedrò, 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 vedrò. A non lasciarti in pace, non può questo contento. Tu non nascesti audace, tu non nascesti audace per dare a me tormento, e forse un po' per ridere di mia infelicità. Già la speranza sola delle vendette mie quest'anima consola, e giubilar mi fa, e giubilar mi fa. Ah, che lasciarmi in pace, non ho questo contento. Tu non nascesti audace per dare a me tormento, e forse ancor per ridere di mia infelicità. Già la speranza sola delle vendette mie quest'anima consola, e giubilar mi fa, e giubilar mi fa, e giubilar mi fa, e giubilar mi fa.
Thank you, Sam. So one of the things I love about opera is that we have all the same character types that you get in great literature and that you get in film. We have villains and heroes, sidekicks, and love interests. But because this art form is very comprehensive, like live theater, we can dive a little deeper into those personality types. So often when I go to a show, one of the things I discover is some new layer or some new personality piece to a character that I may have seen many times before. The Count is a complicated character in that he is equal parts slimy, power hungry, and also charming, and also someone who has felt love and feels love, but who gets distracted in the chase and in enjoying the benefits of his station that have honestly kind of gone by the wayside, and he's just trying to hang on to them a little longer. The depth of what we can portray from the stage is really exciting, and it's something that as performers, every time we do a role, we can go a little deeper, we can explore a little bit, and when your countess changes, for example, as the Count, how you approach that relationship will change too. So you may see the same singer sing the same character, and they will look like a whole different person. So that's part of the joy of it, is we as performers learn a number of roles, and many of them become kind of a signature role. There will be certain things you're particularly good at that you will be hired for. And as each company hires individual performers to come together just for that production, that change and growth is happening all the time in every show you see. So we don't just sing alone. We always sing with other performers as part of an opera. And I think hearing the voices come together can be really enjoyable. So we wanted to make sure everyone got to hear something they know. If you have not heard this song in an airline commercial or a car commercial or a movie, you might want to reflect back. I suspect this will be familiar to many of you. Please enjoy this version of Barcarolle from the Tales of Hoffmann, sung by Katie and Meghan Folkerts, our Baumgartner Studio artist mezzo.
Belle nuit.
Thanks to all three of you for another beautiful rendition. And I want to address the challenges of trying to put performances together with technology that we're exploring for the first time. We just started trying out our duets and quartets this week, and I'm really proud of our team for, as performers, finding a way to perform with somebody without being able to see them and feed off of them and work together in the same space. This is definitely a new reality for us, but I love that because Catherine and Meghan know each other, they still found some of those shades of playing off of each other, even though they couldn't be together. We fortunately have had them sing that together before. So that is a beautiful piece, a very different style. So we had heard some Italian music, that's some French, and in the same way that the languages have a sound that's their own. Each composer has their own sound, but each country and era's sounds do align somewhat. So if you hear something that you love today, I encourage you to go out and maybe listen to another clip from the same opera, or listen to maybe a scene from one of the operas online right now, and see if that floats your boat and is of any interest to you. I also want to make sure we get at least one more piece in, because it's a very famous song I think you will all enjoy, and then I'd love to answer some of your questions. So I'd like to have Luke Selker, our Baumgartner studio artist tenor, do La Donna Immobile. This is another villain, so as happy and cheerful and delightful as this song sounds, we have yet another slimy guy who really just enjoys seducing everybody he can find. Although in some versions of this opera, he really does truly fall in love with this woman. We are doing Rigoletto next season, and this should be a nice, tasty tidbit for all of you. So please enjoy Luke's aria.
La donna immobile, qual piuma il vento, muta l'accento e di pensiero, sempre un amabile, leggiadro viso, in pianto in riso e menzognero. La donna immobile, qual piuma il vento, muta l'accento e di pensiero. E di pensier, e di pensier. È sempre misero chi a lei s'affida, chi le confida, mal cauto il cuore, pur mai non sentesi felici a pieno chi su quel seno non libo amore. La donna immobil, qual più mai vento, muta d'accento e di pensier. E di pensier. E di pensier.
Thank you, Luke.
My pleasure.
Well, Maggie, I hope that all of your performance can hear all of the virtual applause that's been going on. This was really marvelous.
Thank you,
President
Mary.
Steve was the first to chime in and say he absolutely has enjoyed this wonderful, wonderful production. Maggie, did you want to tell us something about a group that you're organizing?
I do, thank you. And if anyone has questions, please feel free to throw them in the texts, and I'll jump in and answer those as quickly as I can. We are putting together a little quasi-book club around opera. So the Florentine has become the quarantine opera. Yes, all puns are welcome. And we are doing a weekly exploration of one of the operas that's been canceled around the country on our website. So if you want to get the cartoon and Cliff Notes version of an opera and find out if that flavor suits you or not, it's a great place to go. And we will do a weekly conversation around those operas, and I will make sure the information on when we're meeting, I believe our first one will be May 5th, will go out in the Rotary information. We've already got some interest in that, and we're really excited to explore the Quarantine Book Club with anyone who's interested in learning more and having a good time. So it's really a chance for us to talk and laugh, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. And if you just want to get together and tell us what you liked or don't like about the Quarantine Opera entry that week, we'd love to hear about it. So
do I remember something about cocktails too?
Oh yes, cocktails are always welcome. May 7th at 5 o'clock will be the first one of those, and we really look forward to sharing that with everyone. So if there's any questions, I'm on, Jan is on, all our singers are on, John Ernst is on, and I just saw someone said we don't hate opera anymore. Thank you, that makes my day.
Okay, there we go.
And I want to thank everyone for being here.
From Mary Bullock, do the singers learn each language, or just enough to sing and understand the songs?
I'm going to half answer that and then have somebody else answer it the rest of the way. So there are some operas done in languages that are less frequent, and if that's not your area, you will probably only learn the sounds and translate the exact words you're singing. So for example, if you're doing your first opera in Czech, you may not speak the language, but you can learn it. Sam, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, we certainly study as much of these languages as we can. And the most efficient way to answer that question, I think, is to say that the more we know of the language in which we're singing, whether or not it's the exact words that are in the score, the better the entire performance will be. So in an undergraduate and a graduate degree, which we all have both, you'll study Italian and French and German, all of which are the most commonly sung languages. And then, as Maggie just mentioned, other frequently performed works will be in Czech, in Russian, some in Spanish. So once you have a handle and maybe have immersed yourself in one or many of these languages, then you can kind of start to spread yourself a little bit wider and thinner and figure out where you need to improve to make your performances more well-rounded.
Well, thank you, Sam. Mary also asked, what does the warming up look like when you're warming up for a performance?
That's a great question, and frankly, we should do a social media series on that because every singer is different. Some people warm up all day if they have a performance. Some people won't sing until an hour before if they have a performance. Some people do really heavy warm-ups like singing arpeggios and scales, so just lots of notes quickly to get your vocal cords warmed up. Some singers specifically will sing a few passages from the show that they have that day that are challenging or that they're going to work on in their lesson that day that are particularly difficult for them or they've been working on. There's always parts of pieces that come really easily and parts that are really challenging. So usually your warm-up will be tied to the rep that you're singing that day. Thank you for the good idea. Look on Facebook.
Yeah. That is a great idea.
That question.
And Kathy Costantini, our friend, says, great job, Maggie. And I know Katie had a chance to talk about her background. Would any of the other studio artists want to say a bit about their background?
That's an excellent idea. If we have the time, is that okay, Mary?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have a couple minutes for sure.
Okay, perfect. Well, Luke, why don't you go next?
I would absolutely love to. So, I, like Sam mentioned, got my undergraduate and graduate degrees in voice. My undergraduate degree was at Belmont University, which is a small private college in Nashville, and I went to Florida State University for my master's degree. Even though I've been kind of all over the country for my training, I am originally from the area, so I'm an Appleton native. So it's really sweet to be coming back to the Midwest into Wisconsin after all this time to be with the Florentine. So I would say my background is fresh out of education and maybe looking to do more in the future. We'll see about that.
Terrific.
Thank you, Luke. And Megan, I know we didn't get to your piece, which I'm sad about, but time was short. Do you want to tell people a little bit about you?
Sure. So I am originally from Scottsdale, Arizona, but I actually did my undergrad in Milwaukee at Wisconsin Lutheran College. And then, let's see, I sort of lived all over the place. I did my graduate degree in Indiana. Then I moved to Chicago to audition. And then I got my first gig with Shreveport Opera in Louisiana. And then I got married and I moved to Seattle. And that's actually where I am right now during this quarantine. And then I worked a little bit with Seattle Opera, and I am a Baumgartner studio artist in Milwaukee now, which I'm so happy to come back to Milwaukee. My mom's from Green Bay, so we would always take family trips up to Wisconsin. So it has a special place in my heart. So I've kind of been all over the place, but I really do feel like the Midwest is a second home to me.
Thanks, Megan. And Sam, can you jump in for a minute and let everyone know about you as well?
Yeah, I'm originally from Chicago and did my undergraduate degree at the University of Illinois. Then I went very far away. I lived in Europe for a few years. I attended the Royal College of Music in London for my master's degree. And after that, I lived in Germany to continue my training and some language development. And then I moved back to the Midwest and landed in Milwaukee. So I went, across an ocean to end up 90 minutes from my parents' door.
Which I'm sure they love. And Jana, I just want to have you introduce yourself as well. You've been a really big part of today's presentation.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Jana Ernst, pianist and coach for Florentine. I'm so thrilled to be here. Well, virtually here anyway. So a big part of my life is working with these wonderful studio artists, and it's just been an absolute pleasure. We work on roles, and yes, we do work on languages, how to pronounce them, get the feel for them. And like Maggey said, there's so many different types of operas, and each one has to have its own flavor. So we're really trying to be very specific when we sing and when we play, trying to find the nugget that really makes this piece sparkle. So it's been an absolute pleasure to work with all four of them.
Well, we're very fortunate to have a high caliber company like the Florentine Opera to attract such terrific people to Milwaukee, where it's a blessing for us all. So I think this is probably a good time to wrap up. Maggey, do you have a final word or two?
I would just say thanks so much. I hope opera is a little bit less of a mystery. I know this was a bit of a rapid crash course, but thanks for diving in, and I hope you'll check out the Rotary snack coming up next.
Thank you, everybody.